I need Infinite back, okay? In December, I finished reading the last part of Sonic Channel's Otherworldly series, and I am just heartbroken over the ending. To those who are not aware, Sonic Channel is Sega Japan's official Sonic website. They post blogs, artwork of many Sonic characters, and notably released monthly chapters of their Otherworld comedy for 2023. Basically, the premise is two Sonic characters are placed in a unique environment and are also wearing dazzling and campy outfits. And we, the people, got to vote on one character to appear in each story. Last year, the first poll was between Infinite and Cream the Rabbit to appear alongside Shadow. Infinite barely won by 0.2%. In the January 2023 story, Infinite was wearing this absolutely glamorous and chic outfit and was performing on stage with Shadow. Infinite was also a voting option to appear with Knuckles for the November story. Sadly, he lost to Sonic, but he did make one last appearance in the December chapter, and I wanted to talk about that because I have so many feelings. If you haven't read any of the Sonic Channel stories, I highly recommend that you do so. These stories are written by Eitaro Toyoda, one of the Sonic team writers, and he does a phenomenal job with storytelling and the character dialogue and interactions. He captures that soulful yet charming spirit that's been lacking with the past few 3D Sonic games. I've linked Sonic Channel's website, as well as where you can find the translated stories in the description and pinned comment. Shout out to Windii, I'm using her translations, so be sure to give her a follow on social media. Just to summarize quickly, Eggman is experimenting with the Phantom Ruby again, and that is what's causing these otherworld situations. He's able to make a super form of himself called Light Eggman. Sonic and friends, who are still in their costumes, each have a special item that represents each Chaos Emerald. For example, Shadow has a microphone, Knuckles has his wrestler belt, and Tails has his tiara. Sonic transforms into Supersonic, and poor Shadow, he couldn't team up with him because he injured his leg. Supersonic and Light Eggman battle, and of course, Eggman ultimately loses. But he escapes back to his underground cave base where Eggman Land used to be, and has a backup plan. But then he realizes the last Phantom Ruby core was gone. All of a sudden, chills run up Eggman's spine as he hears a voice that is as smooth as butter, and it is a voice that he has not heard in a long time. "You finally show an opening, Doctor." Eggman immediately turns around and he sees Infinite in his designer outfit, dressed in 1992 Gianni Versace, Phantom Ruby in hand. He's got a little smirk on his face, and he's right next to the exit. But right before he leaves, he sticks it to Eggman one last time and says, "You owe me a lot, you know, but I'll use this to get even." Eggman is frantically calling out for Infinite, begging him not to take the Phantom Ruby away. But it's too late. Infinite got what he came for. He lands next to a lava pool at the bottom of the ravine and gazes at his long-lost treasure. It really is a modified Phantom Ruby prototype. Just as I thought, if I put this on, I'll have power once again. Finally, things are looking up for Infinite. He's going to have his big comeback, have limitless power, and be the it girl once again. But right before Infinite puts the Phantom Ruby on his chest, he feels a chill in his heart. Surprisingly, Infinite feels conflicted. There's something telling him not to use the Phantom Ruby. His desire for power is battling the pride he feels deep down, and he asks himself, am I really going to resort to this again? But before he can even make a decision, Infinite's body starts to fade away. Because the Phantom Ruby's other world doesn't exist anymore, Infinite is also affected by it, and he disappears. The Phantom Ruby prototype slips through his hands and lands in the lava. He bitterly smiles and shakes his head, and he accepts his fate. He thinks, yeah, it's for the best. and he fades from existence, and the world returns back to normal.
Come back! Come back! Back! He's not coming back.
No, wait, Infinite, come back. Be here. Why did he have to go? We just got him back. I have so many mixed feelings about the ending. On one hand, I was thrilled to see Infinite and Eggman interact after all these years since Sonic Forces. I love that Eggman is caught so off guard and that this time, Infinite is the one who has the power in the relationship. We have our answer that Infinite and Eggman's partnership would have ended in betrayal one way or another. One thing I find hilarious is that the Google translated version makes it seem like Eggman and Infinite had some sort of sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship. You finally showed your love for me, Doctor. You know, not far-fetched. Infinite really likes money, and Eggman is probably a billionaire. But we also briefly see a side of Infinite that wasn't shown in Sonic Forces. The doubt that he feels with using the Phantom Ruby again, and how there's a part of him that doesn't want to rely on it anymore. It's as if somewhere deep down there's a tiny bit of compassion left, sort of keeping it open for a potential redemption arc. But personally, I think he's a little too eager at playing the bad guy, but that's just me. In my opinion, the saddest part was him accepting his fate, not going to bother fighting it. It is what it is. And I was surprised to see Infinite sort of at peace with disappearing again. Maybe it's because he no longer has a discernible life direction, or doesn't know how to live in a post-Sonic Forces world where people have moved on from all of the terrible things he did and the world is better without him. I don't know, but I feel devastated that he is trapped yet again. Well, apparently he's lost forever, but I don't believe that for a second. I have been rooting for Infinite and would love for him to come back. I would love for him to have his toxic upward spiral glow up and be the star that he is. Please, Infinite, come back. Steal all of Eggman's money. Be the reason that Sonic and Shadow go through couples counseling. Just be toxic and make everyone suffer because you're so good at it. We need Infinite back because honestly, Eggman has fallen off. He's lost his luster. He made another artificial kid that he can't take care of. So Infinite is due for a comeback. Call me delusional, but I don't think he's truly gone for good. I think Sonic Team can easily write him back in their stories. In fact, I feel he could definitely return in a future 3D Sonic game. I feel that Sonic Channel's 2023 Otherworld comedy was a way for Sega of Japan to experiment having him back. Find Your Flame from Sonic Frontiers is about Infinite. I believe it was over a year ago when Sega Hardlight announced that Infinite would be an unlockable character for Sonic Forces Speed Battle during special events. Additionally, a few months ago, Sega Hardlight launched the Warlock Infinite design. Also, in the January and February 2024 Sonic Channel calendar illustrations, at the bottom left, you can see icons of different Sonic characters. Guess who is hiding behind Sonic? That's right, a little Infinite Easter egg. He's back. He's totally coming back. Additionally, as recently as a couple of years ago, he's had merchandise sold. You just didn't see that happen with other Sonic villains that aren't Eggman until recently with Mephiles. In March 2023, Jakks Pacific released a figurine of Infinite, and apparently he is really popular and hard to find. I guess I lucked out because I have one of my own. So Infinite has been getting a little bit of attention since the release of Sonic Forces, and I find that really interesting. Perhaps it's due to the fact that Infinite has pretty privilege. He has an aesthetically pleasing design. He's got that low, smooth voice that all the girls and the gays drool over. Even without his mask, he is a pretty boy, for the most part. My favorite type of Infinite fan art is when he's all Vogue with his long flowing hair, wearing Chanel or Valentino or Dolce & Gabbana. Like through the fan art, you can see people recognize that he is pretty. The unique thing about Infinite is he is one of the few pretty Sonic villains. Now, Sonic characters on the hero side are naturally pretty, but most of the Sonic villains are not. I believe prettiness is a factor. Think about it. You don't see anyone asking for Zavok back, even though both are somewhat similar in personality. I believe there is a reason why Sega has prevented Infinite from making an appearance in the IDW comics. I bet that it's because they want his true comeback to be in a 3D Sonic game and on their own terms. Sega's like, we don't want Ian Flynn's grubby hands touching Infinite. Yes, I know I'm Delulu, but I feel like he'll come back. And people want him back. I've seen it. So I have two different styles of content. One is the unintentionally lengthy video essays I make on YouTube, and the second is silly little Sonic edits I post on TikTok. Feel free to check it out, but be warned, it's a very different style of content. The truth is, making Sonic edits is just how I de-stress from the pressures of the 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 9 work life. It relaxes me and brings out the 13-year-old girl in me. So with all that said, I have a few Infinite edits that I made, and for a while I was afraid to post them because I didn't know how it would be received. Because they're very, yes, slay Infinite, slayfinite. Okay, and I recognize this is all anecdotal. The first one I posted did surprisingly well. It got more views and likes than the Sad Shadow edit I made, which honestly blew my mind. You know, because Shadow is the second most popular Sonic character. He's the cool one. He's the one with the more fulfilling character arc. But the Infinite one performed significantly better. It might be due to the song choice or some other factor that influences the algorithm, but I was quite surprised to see this one blow up over the Shadow one, especially when the loudest opinion is, oh, Infinite sucks, he's so weak, he's pathetic, worst Sonic villain ever. But people in the comments were sharing how they liked Sonic Forces and that they want Infinite to come back. You know, let that be a message. Don't listen to the haters. Despite everything, a lot of people love Infinite. They don't want him gone forever. And even those who are critical of his character would like for him to get a second chance. From both gameplay and storytelling, I see that Sonic Frontiers is trying to right the wrongs of previous games. And Sega as a whole has definitely listened to fan criticism, to a fault, in my opinion. Of course, listening to feedback is important, but Sonic discourse has been inconsistent and all over the place these past few years that I just don't think it benefits anyone. Sonic fans can be the biggest Sonic haters, you know what I mean? I especially feel this way regarding criticism of storytelling and character portrayal. I'm not fond of the narrative that certain characters need to be quote-unquote fixed, especially when it's regarding characters who are just having natural reactions to traumatic events. People being overly critical of the heartfelt storytelling from the 2000s is the reason why we got lackluster stories like Sonic Lost World and Sonic Boom. So I was eager to learn that Frontiers was going to take the storytelling in a more serious direction. And it did, but I can see how much fan feedback has influenced the direction for the English version. I admitted this to a few of my friends, and I can't believe I'm admitting this now on the internet. But despite the fact that Sonic Frontiers is objectively better, I still prefer Sonic Force's story and character dialogue over Frontiers. And it feels so wrong to have that opinion, especially with the cheesy one-liners like, Green Hill is looking a lot like Sand Hill. None of this is good, Vector. That's why we call it war. True dat. Frontiers didn't have any cringy one-liners, I don't think. But honestly, I don't remember the majority of Frontiers' dialogue, despite playing the game quite a few times. I want to make it clear, gameplay-wise, Frontiers all the way. But in terms of storytelling and character dialogue, I just gravitate more towards Forces. Look, you don't have to agree with me, you can think I'm wrong, but that's my opinion, okay?
That's my opinion!
And this is not me saying that Forces is perfect. There are a lot of frustrating aspects about Sonic Forces storytelling, but I found myself struggling to stay engaged with cutscenes and Frontiers. And I kept asking myself, why is it that I gravitate more towards Sonic Forces story than I do with Sonic Frontiers? Is it because I like the premise better? Is it because there are more Sonic characters? Is it because of Infinite? And yeah, it's definitely a combination of those things. The toned down direction of the characters, specifically Sonic, Amy, and Eggman, definitely threw me off and made me feel quite disconnected from the story. I don't have a problem with characters being toned down, but I really hate to say this. I'm not sure if it's a mix of the voice direction and the character dialogue, but the character interactions in Horizon specifically felt soulless and underwhelming. In terms of the voice acting, sometimes the voice clips sounded like the voice actor was recording in the middle of the night and didn't want to wake anyone up. I know this is not the voice actor's fault. The Sonic cast is clearly talented. It's just the voice direction did not utilize them to their full potential. However, quite a bit of the dialogue felt inconsistent to the characters, especially Amy. One example that comes to mind is when Amy said that she's not a damsel in distress anymore in Horizons. But Amy hasn't been a damsel in distress since Sonic CD. Well, I guess Sonic Adventure 2. With Amy in particular, I get that Sega of America is trying to tone down Amy's love and passion for Sonic, but it's like they also stripped other facets of her personality. She's not the bubbly, energetic, but fierce girl that I knew. She's like a shadow of herself, and that is such a shame because I love Amy. In my opinion, Sonic Forces captured most of the characters better. However, it is worth noting that Knuckles, Tails, and Amy didn't have much to say in comparison to Frontiers. Sonic Forces' biggest problem is that it's too short and it doesn't provide enough detail for the story to flow. But Sonic Frontiers, especially Horizons, has the opposite problem, where it overexplains things that could have been left to the imagination. And at least from my experience, I end up forgetting most of what was said. I liked learning about the Cocos and their backstory, but the cutscenes that are triggered by interacting with the other characters are just boring to me. I hate to say that because I do love the game, but I'm just completely indifferent to most of the Sonic and Friends cutscenes. And despite being let down by Sonic Forces' story, I still enjoy watching most of the cutscenes for some reason. For what was there, the character writing and the dialogue was mostly solid. I mean, it's just the story was too short. Yeah, Tails was all over the place. Classic Sonic didn't even need to be there. Modern Sonic needs to read the room sometimes. But Knuckles, I liked that he took charge and was a leader, but still stayed true to himself. I also liked that Amy stepped up and was the main coordinator for the Resistance. Again, even though they didn't say much, characters like Silver, Espio, and Vector were well written. And Shadow was a huge improvement from Sonic Free Riders and Sonic Boom. The other thing is Sonic Forces had a little bit of drama. Infinite is an instigator. Look at him sowing seeds of doubt amongst the people. Frontiers definitely had its share of heartfelt moments, but lacked that spicy flair. Like when Eggman blew up half the moon in Sonic Adventure 2. Just really absurd theatrical moments like that. I don't care how unrealistic that would be in real life. I love everything about it. Melodrama was something that the 2000 Sonic games did really well, and I was happy to see it partially back in Sonic Forces. Everything was looking grim, but Sonic and friends are not losing hope. But then Infinite brings out the sun for like a few seconds. It's just a little dramatic, and I like that. Not that you have to have drama for a good story. I'm just a middle school theater kid at heart. I love drama. I love being on the edge of my seat. I love seeing the villain one step ahead and putting the hero through the ringer. I love a cunning villain that can cause chaos with the snap of a finger. That's why I love Dimentio so much. He will always be the perfect villain to me because he checks all the boxes. The instigation, the sass, the best one-liners, the mastermind behind it all. Obviously, Infinite is no Dimentio. I mean, no one will ever beat Dimentio, right? But Infinite brought the flair that was missing from Eggman since Sonic Unleashed. Infinite isn't a bad villain, it's just that the story was poorly executed and he couldn't show his full potential. Say what you will about Infinite's background reveal, but he carried the main story. Sonic Forces would be nowhere near as interesting without him. Sonic might be the main character, but Infinite was the star of the show. And the ironic thing is, he wasn't even in the game very much. But think about it. He's the reason why Sonic was fooled into thinking that Shadow betrayed him for 6 months. He's the reason why your custom character is so anxious. Eggman was the most successful he had ever been because of Infinite. Now, before you say, technically the Phantom Ruby, who was using the Phantom Ruby? Nobody feared Eggman, but a lot of the rabble were afraid of Infinite. Do you see this cutscene where Tails and Classic were spying on Infinite and Eggman? Classic Sonic was like, hell no, I'm not taking my chances with this guy, but I'll fight Eggman because at least I'll win. Tails was not afraid to talk to Eggman, but he never had a single conversation with Infinite, and he was still affected by him in Sonic Frontiers, the English version. Infinite is not mentioned in the Japanese version, which if you think the Japanese version is more canon than fair, it's like the saying, Infinite was a whole chapter in Tails' life, but Tails was just a footnote for Infinite. I know a lot of people were upset with Tails, but Infinite traumatized the poor boy. Tails watched his hero, his role model, his best friend, his brother get nearly beaten to death. So I can't blame him for losing all of his confidence and being extremely codependent. Also, yes, he might be a genius, but he's still a kid. So lay off on Tails, okay? He did nothing wrong. Again, say what you will about the execution, but despite everything, I still think Infinite is the most captivating character in Sonic Forces. You have so many characters appear in this game, but who are you paying the most attention to in these cutscenes? It's Infinite. And the way he presents himself is very interesting to me. He's quite refined in the main game, but also has a dark sense of humor. He knows how to get under people's skin and sense their insecurities and use it to his advantage. And I think it's very refreshing considering that Eggman had been the main villain for nearly the past decade. And he became predictable, in my opinion. With all of that said, I don't think Infinite needs to be fixed. The writers just need to flesh out some of the details, like what his motivations are and his relationship to other characters. I thought it was weird that Infinite was so obsessive over Shadow in Episode Shadow, but he hardly interacts with him in the main game. Infinite, didn't you tell Shadow he was the reason that you are the way you are? I guess Infinite got over it and moved on real quick. Speaking of Episode Shadow, that is where it's embarrassing to be an Infinite fan because he is so unhinged in Episode Shadow. And I don't mean, oh, he's crazy, that's hot. No, I mean it in a bad way. While I like most of Infinite's cutscenes, the ones I don't like give me secondhand embarrassment. And I feel it the most when Infinite is confronting Shadow. Mariah Carey's song, Obsessed, fits this rivalry, romance rejection to a T. You're delusional. Boy, you're losing your mind. Oh, and when he started laughing hysterically and Shadow was just sitting there, oh my god, that was so awkward. Infinite, you're supposed to be all mysterious and refined. It's night and day on how he acts in episode Shadow and in the main game. Although the prequel comic warned us that he is not right in the head. Despite the fact that I get embarrassed over Infinite's uncouth behavior, I don't think episode Shadow completely ruins his character. I think his background reveal shows someone who is very insecure and is overcompensating for something, and that can be built upon. The writers can take that and focus on the unanswered questions like, why does he want power so much? Why does he want people to know his name? The prequel comic shows how selfish he is. One of his squad members tried to warn him about Eggman, but he didn't take their feelings into consideration because he was bored. And then his squad gets hurt really bad, or maybe they died. I don't think they died. One thing Infinite tells Sonic is, friends are nothing more but a fleeting illusion. You can count on nobody but yourself. That to me makes me think they ditched him. Regardless, instead of taking a step back to reflect on his actions and how they have consequences, he pins the blame on Shadow while he continues to be horrible. But Infinite's interactions with Shadow are so different in comparison to Sonic. I guess after getting his petty revenge, he got a big confidence boost and became more poised and composed. I mean, he's still crazy because he's a mass murderer, but even though he got the power he so desperately wanted, he's still bored and unhappy. And he's still obsessed with pointing out how everyone else is weak in comparison to him. Shadow really struck a nerve with Infinite. But you know what they say, hit dogs holler. Well, he's a jackal, but anyway. I would have liked to see more interactions between Infinite and Sonic. I enjoyed the back and forth that they had in the 3 cutscenes they interacted in. I specifically liked that he could talk back to Sonic in a way that Eggman could not. Eggman seems to lose his cool, but Infinite stays unfazed. If anything, he seems amused by it. I personally think the reason he didn't kill Sonic when he had the chance was because he got a kick out of toying with him. I don't know, maybe he has a crush on him or something. I mean, he didn't say no when Sonic asked him if he liked long romantic walks on the beach. It also would have been nice to see more of his relationship with Eggman. The prequel comic shows how they met and how Eggman took a liking to Infinite, but you only see them conversing with each other in 2 cutscenes in the main game and that one moment in episode Shadow. Eggman's partnership with Infinite felt different from his relationship with Metal Sonic or even Zabok. It was still very much a boss and an employee relationship, but Eggman seems to respect Infinite more than you're used to seeing with other Sonic characters. That isn't saying much, but there was definitely a mutual benefit between the two. Infinite wanted money and power and basically to get his yayas out, and Eggman wanted to take over the world. With that said, you could briefly see some cracks in the relationship, and I'm sure it would have inevitably ended with betrayal. In the prequel comic, we see that Infinite's desire is to watch the world burn. So either Eggman will dispose of Infinite the moment he isn't valuable to him anymore, or Infinite would be like, oh, this was fun, but I have no interest in helping you build your tacky empire. So I'm taking the Phantom Ruby, and you can't stop me because I have all the power in the world. Now grovel to me and lick my boots, you pathetic clown. You are my court jester, my thrall, and you would be wise to follow my every command if you value your life. I'm sure the writers would tone that down a little, but you get the message. While Infinite seemed fairly loyal, it was intriguing how he would make snide remarks to Eggman's face a couple times. I really wish that the relationship was fleshed out and that we had more interactions between the two. I am super curious to learn about how they truly feel about each other. On one hand, this is the first Eggman partnership in a long while that doesn't seem outright controlling on the surface. It's interesting that Eggman let Infinite have control of his Phantom Ruby prototype, his most powerful treasure. And yet, it is quite telling that Eggman had a backup plan when Infinite failed, and how it's also implied in the otherworldly story that Eggman could have released Infinite from the Phantom Ruby if he tried. From Infinite's perspective, I get the impression that he doesn't really care for Eggman, he just enjoys the Phantom Ruby's power. Going back to that one cutscene where Tails and Classic were spying on Infinite and Eggman, I'm convinced that Infinite sensed that they were there, but didn't say anything for reasons that I will never know. Sure, maybe his mask weakens his hearing, but then again, there are also times where you can see him reacting really quickly to surprise attacks. And that to me is the most frustrating piece of Sonic Forces. Because the story has so many gaps, there will always be questions that I'll never know the answer to, unless I actually had a chance to have a conversation with the writers about it, which will never happen. All you can really do is fill in the blanks yourself, or write a fanfic about it. That isn't always a bad thing with storytelling. I think it's fantastic when stories pique your curiosity and have you speculate various theories. However, you speculate so much with Sonic Forces because there isn't enough detail. Sonic Forces' story would have been really great if it were more fleshed out. I mean, you can see the vision, it's there, but I do suspect that it had to be a shorter story because it was a short game. You can't have 5-minute long cutscenes after playing a 2-minute level. I mean, 2 minutes is fairly generous. If it was the intention that Infinite is the more manipulative one of the two, I doubt it, but I would have liked to see Infinite string Eggman along a little bit. For example, Infinite picking up on Eggman's weaknesses and insecurities and working that to his advantage. Parts of the sugar daddy, sugar baby dynamic is there. They just need to expand on it. Look, I'm half kidding with these sugar daddy jokes, but you know for a fact that Infinite wouldn't even look in Eggman's direction if he weren't rich, so his shoes tell me all I need to know. Look at that. He's wearing custom-made Louboutins, and these boots are from Celine. Hopefully Infinite will be back in a future Sonic game, and better than ever. I feel that this isn't going to be the end for him, and Sonic Team is holding out for the right moment to bring him back. I also hope that Toyoda has the opportunity to be the lead writer in a future Sonic game. I will say, if you are sorely missing Infinite or wish to see a better portrayal of that type of character, I highly recommend playing Bug Fables if you haven't done so. The main antagonist is basically Infinite in another universe, but with a better backstory. And better execution. Better everything. I love and adore Bug Fables. It is a fantastic game. If you do end up playing it, let me know what you think. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching and putting up with all my sugar daddy jokes. Please be sure to check out the artists featured in this video and show them some love. I've linked their socials in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you VSilvers and Windii for letting me feature your beautiful Infinite artwork. He looks so pretty. Also, if you have been subscribed to me, thank you so much for sticking around. I apologize for the lack of content these past several months. I know this is much more casual from the video essays I've made, but I wanted to get something out there. I've been working on quick monologues of a topic that's on my mind, while in the meantime, continue to finish larger video projects. Admittedly, I find myself mentally stuck on quite a few video essays that I've been trying to finish. I know what I want to write and what I need to finish, but I've been struggling to get it on paper for some reason. Thankfully, things have gotten better in terms of motivation and inspiration, but please know that I want to make more content and I don't want to take forever to upload videos. However, I don't want to rush the video analyses that I'm drafting, so I'm also making videos that are much more casual and don't have the bells and whistles of a video essay, but still serve as an outlet for me to share my thoughts on topics I'm passionate about. Much longer than a YouTube short, but nowhere near the length of a full-blown video essay. I still want to connect with people, especially to those who are shy about sharing their opinions because it may not be the highly accepted opinion. Let this be a safe space for all of my Infinite and Sonic Forces fans. Despite everything, I had a fun time with Sonic Forces. I loved that I got to make myself as a Sonic character. I love making my pets into custom characters. I love experimenting with a variety of outfits and accessories. Despite the poor execution, I still love Infinite. I love that he is just a horrible person and definitely a gold digger. I love that he's got a dark sense of humor, but also a tad bit sassy. And even though he was fairly loyal to Eggman, I love that he pushed his buttons a little bit. There's a lot to enjoy about Infinite, and despite how critical people are of him and Sonic Forces, there are many that are willing to enjoy the good that was there. To me, Sonic Forces is a glass half empty or half full type of game. And I'm in the glass half full camp. Yes, it wasn't executed to its full potential, but I still liked it. I still had a good time with it, and I would especially like to see how Infinite's character progresses in future Sonic games. I really hope Sonic Team brings him back in a 3D Sonic game. On their own terms, of course. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Have a great night, and take care. Bye.